Okay, I need you to stop what you're doing right now because what I'm about to show you changes everything we thought we knew about Melania Trump's origin story. 24 hours ago, the House Oversight Committee released a new batch of photographs, documents that they've been sitting on, materials that paint a very different picture of how the Trump marriage actually began. And I'm not talking about minor discrepancies here. I'm talking about evidence that fundamentally contradicts the fairy tale version Melania has been selling for decades, because while you were probably focused on whatever crisis dominated yesterday's news cycle, these photographs quietly appeared in a congressional database, and what they reveal about the timeline, about who was where and when, about the connections between powerful men and vulnerable young women in late 1990s New York. It's not just troubling, it's a pattern that keeps repeating, and it's time we talked about what that pattern actually means. Here's what you need to understand before we go any further. The official story, the one Melania tells in her book and interviews, the one that's been carefully polished and presented to the public for years. It goes like this. September 1998, Kit Kat Club in New York City, a glamorous party during Fashion Week. Donald Trump recently separated from Mara Maples, attending with another date. Melania Naus, a successful European model, sophisticated, educated, speaking 5 languages. Their eyes meet across the room. He asks for her number. She, being the confident woman she is, asks for his instead. It's romantic. It's charming. It's the kind of story you'd see in a romantic comedy about Manhattan socialites finding love among the glittering lights of the city. But here's what Melania's book conveniently doesn't mention about that night. The party wasn't just some random Fashion Week gathering. It was organized by a man named Paolo Zampoli. Now, Zampoli today is a United States ambassador appointed by Donald Trump to represent America in the Dominican Republic. But back in 1998, he ran what he called modeling agencies. And I use that term very specifically because what these agencies actually did was bring young women from Eastern Europe to the United States and connect them with wealthy, older American men at parties exactly like the one where Donald and Melania supposedly had their fairy tale meeting. Stay with me here because this is where the new photographs become absolutely critical. The House Committee didn't just release random pictures. They released a timeline. And that timeline shows us exactly what Donald Trump was doing in the months and years surrounding his meeting with Melania. The photographs show Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. Not once, not at a single party where they happened to be in the same room. Multiple occasions, multiple locations spanning years, and the dates on these photographs, they overlap directly with the period when Trump claims he met Melania at this sophisticated, innocent party in Manhattan. Let me be very specific about what we're looking at, because the details matter enormously. One photograph dated July 1998, just 2 months before the alleged Kit Kat Club meeting, shows Trump and Epstein at Mar-a-Lago with several young women who, according to the congressional investigation, were part of what they're calling the modeling pipeline. Another photograph from October 1998, just weeks after Trump supposedly met Melania, shows both men at what's described in the documentation as a private recruitment event. Not a party, not a social gathering, a recruitment event. The House Committee's report includes testimony from women who attended these events. I'm not going to name them because some have requested anonymity, but their accounts describe a system. Young women, many from Eastern Europe, brought to the United States with promises of modeling careers, introduced to wealthy men at parties organized by people like Paolo Zampoli. And Jeffrey Epstein's name appears in connection to several of these agencies, not as an owner, but as what the report calls a strategic partner. Now, Trump's defenders will immediately say he cut ties with Epstein years before Epstein's crimes became public knowledge. And technically, there's evidence that their friendship cooled sometime in the early 2000s, possibly around 2004 or 2005. But here's what that defense ignores. The question isn't just when Trump stopped associating with Epstein. The question is, what was happening during all those years when they were close friends, when they were attending the same parties, when they were connected to the same modeling agencies, when they were both operating in the same circles in New York, exactly during the period when Donald Trump met his future wife. If you're finding this information valuable, if you think this kind of detailed timeline analysis matters, make sure you're subscribed to this channel because mainstream media is not connecting these dots. They're reporting on the photographs as if they're isolated incidents, as if there's no larger pattern, as if the timing doesn't matter. But the timing is everything. Let's talk about Melania's immigration story, because the new documents raise serious questions here too. Melania arrived in the United States in 1996 on a visitor visa. She then obtained what's called an H-1B visa, which is meant for workers with specialized skills. Here's where it gets interesting. The H-1B visa system is competitive. People with advanced degrees, specialized training, unique talents, they compete for a limited number of spots every year. Melania was working as a model, not a supermodel, not someone on the cover of Vogue or walking major runways. She was doing catalog work, some magazine shoots, nothing that would typically qualify as a specialized skill requiring an H-1B visa. But she got one. And then in 2001, she got something even more extraordinary, an EB-1 visa, often called the Einstein visa because it's reserved for people who demonstrate extraordinary ability in their field. We're talking about Nobel Prize winners, Olympic athletes, renowned artists, leading researchers. The standard is incredibly high. You have to show evidence of sustained national or international acclaim, major contributions to your field, recognition by peers as being at the very top of your profession. What was Melania's extraordinary ability? The Trump team has never provided the documentation, the visa application, the evidence submitted. It's all sealed. We don't know what she claimed qualified her. We don't know who supported her application. We don't know what strings were pulled or what connections were used. But we do know this. The timeline of her visa approvals coincides exactly with the period when she was dating Donald Trump. When Trump had connections to powerful people in immigration services, when Trump had access to lawyers who specialized in navigating the system, the contrast here should make your blood boil if you care about equal justice. Right now, the Trump administration is waging war on immigrants. They're separating families. They're deporting people who've been here for decades, who have American children, who contribute to their communities, who followed the rules as much as they possibly could. And the justification is always the same. We have to enforce the law. We have to stop people from gaming the system. We can't make exceptions just because someone wants a better life. But Melania Trump came here on a visitor visa, worked illegally as a model before getting an H-1B, then somehow obtained an Einstein visa she clearly didn't qualify for, gained citizenship through marriage, and then brought her parents here through chain migration. The exact same family reunification process Trump has spent years demonizing. Every single thing the Trump administration attacks immigrants for, his own wife benefited from. I need you to stay with me for what comes next, because this is where the House committee photographs reveal something even more disturbing. Among the newly released materials is a photograph from 1999, roughly a year after Trump and Melania officially started dating. The photograph shows Trump, Epstein, and Paolo Zampoli together at what's identified as a modeling event in Manhattan. Melania is not in this particular photograph, but according to event records that the committee also released, she was listed as one of the models working that event. Let me say that again, so it lands properly. A year into their relationship, Melania is working a modeling event that brings together her boyfriend, his close friend Jeffrey Epstein, and Paolo Zampoli, the man who organized the party where she and Donald allegedly met. This wasn't her boyfriend showing up to support her work. This was all of them operating in the same system, the same network of modeling agencies, parties, and what the House Committee's report describes as talent recruitment operations. The report includes email correspondence between Zampoli and Epstein from 2000 and 2001 discussing, and I'm quoting here, Eastern European recruitment strategies and expanding the New York pipeline. These aren't isolated coincidences. This is a documented network, and Melania Trump met her husband directly through that network. Now let's talk about what's been happening recently, because the timing of these photograph releases is not accidental. You've probably noticed that Melania has been largely absent from public events over the past few months. When she does appear, her body language tells a story that no amount of official statements can paper over. At the recent White House event, the photographs from that occasion went viral, not because of what was said, but because of what was visible. Melania standing several feet away from Donald. Her expression, that frozen half-smile that doesn't reach her eyes, the way she angles her body, always positioned so there's space between them, so they're not actually touching unless absolutely necessary for a photo. Body language experts have analyzed these recent appearances, and their assessment is consistent. This is someone who is physically present but emotionally detached, someone going through the motions of a public role while maintaining maximum personal distance. Compare this to photographs from 1999 and 2000, early in their relationship. Back then, the body language was different. She looked engaged, present, connected. Something has fundamentally changed. The timing of that change is significant. According to multiple reports, Melania began pulling back after the Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal stories broke. But it wasn't just the affairs, it was the details. She was pregnant with Barron when Trump began the affair with McDougal. She was recovering from childbirth when the affair with Daniels happened. These weren't ancient history. These were betrayals during what should have been a sacred time in their family life. And Trump didn't just have these affairs. He paid to cover them up. He orchestrated hush money payments through shell companies. He lied about them repeatedly. He was convicted of felonies related to these cover-ups. And through it all, Melania has been expected to stand beside him, to smile for the cameras, to maintain the fiction of a happy marriage. Here's what makes the new photographs so devastating. They don't just show Trump with Epstein. They show a pattern, Trump operating in a world where young women from Eastern Europe were brought to the United States and connected with wealthy older men. Trump moving through a network of modeling agencies that served multiple purposes. Trump having sustained relationships with people who ran these operations. And Melania, the woman who would become First Lady, entering his life directly through that network. The official story has always been that Melania was different. She wasn't part of that world. She was a successful professional who happened to meet a wealthy man at a party. But the photographs and documents suggest otherwise. They suggest she was exactly part of that world, that her path to Donald Trump was the same path other young Eastern European women were traveling, that the only difference is she ended up marrying the wealthy older man instead of being discarded after the parties ended. I want to pause here and acknowledge something important. None of this is Melania's fault. She was a young woman in her 20s in a foreign country trying to build a career in an industry known for exploitation. The system she entered was designed to put young women in vulnerable positions. That's not on her. That's on the men who built and profited from that system. But here's what is fair to point out: the massive hypocrisy of her current position. She lives in luxury, protected by Secret Service, wielding influence as a former First Lady, while her husband's administration destroys the lives of women who came to this country under similar circumstances, women who were also young, also vulnerable, also trying to build better lives, but who didn't have the luck or the circumstances to marry a billionaire. Let me tell you about someone named Fernanda. She's the mother of Caroline Leavitt's nephew. Caroline Leavitt, for those who don't know, is Trump's White House press secretary. Fernanda was detained by immigration authorities. The Trump team tried to portray her as someone who barely spoke English, as someone who had no real connection to American life. And then Fernanda gave an interview. She was articulate, she was composed, her English was excellent, frankly better than Melania's when she tried to read a children's book at that infamous Christmas event. But Fernanda gets detained. Her family gets separated. She faces the full weight of the immigration enforcement system. Meanwhile, Melania, who received preferential visa treatment, who lied about her education, who brought her parents here through chain migration, she gets to live in luxury while her husband wages war on people exactly like her. The House Committee photographs show us that Melania's origin story is not what we've been told. It's not a fairy tale romance. It's a story about a system that brought young Eastern European women to America and connected them with powerful men. It's a story about a network that included Jeffrey Epstein, that included modeling agencies that served multiple purposes, that included parties designed specifically for these introductions. And it's a story about a woman who benefited from that system, who gained citizenship and privilege through it, and who now stands silent while her husband destroys the lives of other immigrants who never got her advantages. Let me leave you with 3 things to remember from everything we've discussed. First, the timeline. The House Committee photographs prove that Trump was deeply involved with Epstein during the exact period when he met Melania. This wasn't casual acquaintance. This was sustained connection through a network of modeling agencies and private parties. Second, the visa situation. Melania received extraordinary immigration benefits that she clearly didn't qualify for on merit. The Einstein visa, the quick path to citizenship, the chain migration that brought her parents, everything Trump now attacks, she benefited from. Third, the body language. Something has changed. The recent photographs show a woman going through the motions, maintaining distance, that frozen expression that never quite reaches a real smile. What happens next is something we'll all be watching. The House Committee has indicated there are more documents coming, more photographs, more evidence of the network that operated in 1990s New York, more details about who knew what and when. And every new revelation makes the hypocrisy more glaring, the double standard more obvious, the injustice more severe. Democracy doesn't defend itself. It requires people willing to ask uncomfortable questions, willing to demand accountability from the powerful, willing to point out when the system is rigged to benefit some while punishing others for doing the exact same things. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, because this story is far from over. There's more coming out every day, and you're going to want to see what develops next. I'll be watching, and so should